All right, I'm the Flat Rate Master, and today we're talking about the stuff every shop should have, and if you're going to look at a new shop to go work at, you should check these things to make sure it's a good place to work. Now, this topic was suggested in a comment. If there's something you want me to discuss in a video, make sure and comment it. That's where a good bit of my ideas come from is, well, y'all. So if I remember to find his name, I will put it here. I don't remember who suggested it, but I'll put it somewhere right here if I find it. Let's talk about what every shop, this is no lie, every shop should have this stuff. And if it doesn't, it probably is not a good place for you to work. All right, number one, this is a big thing no matter what, ever, an information system, preferably multiple. If you go to work for a shop or go in an interview, find out what information system they use. Make sure they're not using a 10-year-old set of discs from Mitchell or AllData that are out of date. Make sure they have a current subscription to AllData, Mitchell, MotoLogic, something like that, Identifix, and preferably multiples, because we all know nobody's perfect. Here we have AllData and Identifix, so we have access to multiple service information sources. Obviously, if you're working at a dealer, they're going to have the OE stuff. Well, they're required to. They get billed for it no matter what, so they'll have it. But if you're going to work in the used car department, you need information. Do they have AllData? Do they have a Mitchell? Do they have something? How are you even going to get paid right if you can't look up labor time? So it's important that you have an information system. This is something that you'd be surprised how many shops don't have. And that is, well, plastic clips. You know, the stuff that holds cars together nowadays? Go look around the shop. Do they have a selection of push clips? Do they have a good selection of push clips? If you've taken a late model car apart, you know a ton of stuff is held together with push clips. Do they have it? Do they have a selection of it? Do they have enough of it? I mean, if you've ever had to replace a splash shield, 20, 30 clips, you know, might be needed. It seems simple, but if they don't have a supply of push clips and they work on cars that have push clips, which is, I think, all of them, it's a huge red flag. Because think about it. Oh, I need 4 push clips to put this splash shield back on. We're going to have to order them. It's going to be, you know, 2-3 hours. On that vein, nut and bolt selection. Now, no shop's going to have every nut and bolt you're ever going to need, but you should have a good selection of nuts and bolts. You know, after all, we lose bolts, we lose nuts. Well, sometimes we have to, you know, put new nuts and bolts in when we had to cut them out or whatever, but do they have a nut and bolt selection? Do they have a selection of other shop supply type products? Do they have shrink tube? Do they have solder? Do they have the butt connectors with the shrinkable tube? And if that's what they prefer, that's what you prefer. Do they have that available? In this business, you're going to be fixing wires, so you at least either need to have good crimp connectors or solder and shrink tube, one or the other. The normal shop chemicals. Now, you may not like what they use, but do they have it? You know, do you see like 3 cans of brake clean throughout the shop, no case stock, or the bulk brake clean? They should have one or the other. You should not be having to beg for brake clean. I worked at a shop where you got this much brake clean for the month, and if you used it all, you are SOL. That sucked. I mean, that's something you need to consider. Is it seems simple. Oh, do they have brake clean? Well, do they have enough brake clean? Some of the other simple things. Well, do they have a torch? Now, here in the South, it's needed less, but there are times you are going to need a torch, period, end of story. Not just in a shop like this where we see a lot of transient customers that are from up north that have rusty old cars. You're still going to have situations where you need a torch. Do they have one? Does it have gas? Some may say a welder is in that same category. If you're in that category, do they have a welder? Now, basic shop equipment. Now, I would hope they'd have it and it would be in good repair. But here's something to consider. Do they have enough? You know, here in this shop with 7 technicians, we have 3 AC machines. We used to have 4, but 1 broke and the boss got tired of stuffing money in that POS RTI machine. So he said, bye. So, but do they have enough? You know, if you're going to work at a shop with 20 technicians and there's 1 AC machine, now that might work up north. In the South, that doesn't fly. There's times where there's a backlog with 4 machines in this shop. Not just AC machines, but, you know, brake flush machines, battery chargers, all that kind of stuff. All the stuff you would normally use. Do they have enough for the amount of technicians they have? Because chances are, a lot of shops, that's going to be a red flag. If you go in a shop and they've got 20 technicians, 1 AC machine, and you're going to see in your day-to-day life standing around waiting for an AC machine. Unless you're in, you know, like northern Canada or something, chances are in the middle of summer you're going to have a good bit of AC work, and not having an AC machine for a bunch of technicians is going to cause, well, lack of efficiency. Do they have other equipment for servicing vehicles? Do they have a way to fill dipstickless transmissions? Or do you have to provide that? Scan tools. You know, I'm going to use dealerships as a good example of this because it ties into what I was talking about earlier. Do they have enough? So you go into a dealership, there's, let's say, 20 technicians. How many OEM scan tools do they have? How many still work? Because that's the big one. You go into a larger dealership, they might have originally had 5 OE scan tools, and then you come to find out they only have 1 working one because nobody's fixed them. Or that laptop died and nobody's fixed it. This one's died. You know, that's important, especially going into a larger shop is, again, do they have enough equipment for the technicians they have? If they don't, that is a huge flag. If they're not willing to invest in the shop equipment for productivity, they're probably not willing to do some other stuff too that's going to cost you money. Independent side, do they have a shop provided scan tool? Do they have multiple scan tools? Do they have OEM scan tools? Now, OEM, it's kind of hard in an aftermarket shop with working on everything for them to have OEM, but they need to think about it, but that's another video. Do they provide a scan tool? Do they provide enough scan tools for the technicians there? Because that's something to be considered when you're going to work for a shop. If the shop doesn't have a scan tool or only has 1 for multiple technicians and you don't own a scan tool, that's an expense that you have to consider when you're going to work there. So do they have, again, enough equipment for the technicians that work there? You might need a scan tool simply to do a brake job. And if the shop only has the 1 scan tool and it's tied up while the guy's doing brakes, it's costing you money. Again, going back to the shop's not willing to invest in infrastructure for the shop, you're not going to make money there. Now, obviously, you know, just little tips. Look at the condition of the equipment. look at the organization of the shop supplies. On shop supplies, do they stock common use chemicals? Is there RTV on the shelf? Is there Loctite on the shelf? Is there anti-seize on the shelf? All those chemicals, if they don't have it in stock, now Loctite, stuff like that, they may order that in as needed, but RTV either needs to be ordered with the ticket or needs to be in stock. One or the other, because, you know, if you're stuck sitting on your butt waiting on a tube of RTV to come because, oh, service writer forgot to add it to the ticket, that, again, costs you money. So, hope this video was informative. As always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.